I might upon you while you watch them, then fix you. Blessing to the Sabbath. Barakatah Yahweh. Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Asherah. Nathanawa. Ashabaf. Bashalom. Tawada. Amen. English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that give to us the Sabbath in peace. Thank you, so be it. Psalm 121. The Alim Ma'a Asherah Makat. Anya, Arayam, Ayinimya, O, Ahayam, Mayan, Yabua'a, Izoya, Yabua'a, Mayahawa, Shaisha, Shamayim, Barataza, La'a, Yanathan, Lamawat, Galia, Yala'a, Yanawam, Shashamaka, Hana, La'a, Yanawam, Wala'a, Yeshan, Shashwama, Yashavala, Yahweh, Shemaya, Yahweh, Elzalia, Ayel, Yad, Yanim Yad, Kawamam, Ashamash, La'a, Alchaya, Rayurak,
La'a, Balayela, Yahweh, Yashimoya, Mako, Arai, Yashimo, Noapasha, Yahweh, Yashimo, Hawalakia, Abwaya, Maitha, Wa'ai, Aiwulam, Bahasham, Yahushai, the Wada, Amun.
Psalms 121, a song of degrees. I will lift up mine eyes into the hills from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is thy keeper. The Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth, and even forevermore. Amen.
Amen. Shema Yasharala, Hero Israel. Shema Yasharala, Yahweh, Allah Yahweh, Achad, Shema Yasharala, Yahweh, Allah Yahweh, Achad, Shema Yasharala, Yahweh, Allah Yahweh, Achad.
Deuteronomy 6 and 4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. Amen.
Amen. Yahweh Tapala, Yahweh's prayer. Abiyanawa,
Abiyanawa,
Shabbat Shemayim,
Shemayim,
Kodash,
Kodash,
Haya,
Haya,
Shemka,
Shemka,
Yahweh,
Yahweh,
Malakovka,
Malakwaka,
Taba'a,
Taba'a,
Ratazawanka,
Tazawanka,
Haya,
Haya,
Aisha,
Aisha,
Ba'arataza,
Arataza,
Ka,
Ka,
Bashemayim,
Bashemayim,
Katananawa,
Tananawa,
Lakham,
Lakham,
Yuwam,
Yawam,
Za,
Za,
Wasalaknawa,
Wasalaknawa,
Ka Wasnawa,
Abawapnawa,
Kasalaknawa,
Kasalaknawa,
Ka Wafyanawa,
Abawapinawa,
Wala'a,
Wala'a,
Abiyanawa,
Abiyanawa,
O,
O,
Nasai 1,
Nasaiwan,
Abo,
Abo,
Aushainawa,
Abishanawa,
Marai,
Marai,
Kaya,
Kaya,
Laka,
Laka,
Amalakwa,
Amalakwa,
Wa'ala,
Wa'ala,
Wataparat,
Watapara,
Waiwulam,
Waiwalam,
Amun.
Amen. Matthew 6 and 9. After this manner, therefore, pray ye, Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Amen. Hashira Matazawaf, the Ten Commandments. La'a,
La'a,
Yahaya,
Yahaya,
Laka,
Laka,
Alahayim,
Alahayim,
Alkayim,
Alchayim,
Alpunya,
Alpanya,
La'a,
La'a,
Daisha,
Daisha,
Laka,
Laka,
Poso,
Paso,
Wala'a,
Wala'a,
Daibadam,
Daibadam,
La'a,
La'a,
Talakwaka,
Walakwaka,
Shamwa,
Shemwa,
Yahawa,
Yahweh,
Lahaika,
Alahayaka,
Lashua,
Lashawa,
Zakar,
Zakar,
Af,
Af,
Hayuam,
Ayuwam,
Yashabaf,
Shabbat,
Lakudashwa,
Lakudashwa,
Chabad,
Kabad,
Abiyaka,
Abika,
Wa Amaka,
Wa Amaka,
La'a,
La'a,
Tuatazak,
Taratazak,
La'a,
La'a,
Tana'ap,
Tana'a,
La'a,
La'a,
Taganap,
Tagana,
La'a,
La'a,
Taina,
Taina,
Shakur,
Shakur,
La'a,
La'a,
Takamad,
Tachamat,
Ko,
Ko,
Ashura,
Ashura,
Lahaika,
Laraika,
Amen.
Amen. Exodus 20 and 3. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. Amen.
Amen. Yeshua PVC. Baraktayawa, Basham Yahushai, Asherah, Natandawa, Payagapon, Tuara Amun, Laihao, Basham Yahushai, Athiyashal. English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushai, that gives to us the fruit of the vine. Thank you, so be it, to Yahweh, in the name of Yahushai, with Israel. I model upon you, are you watching? Baraktayawa, Agado, Rakaram, Habio, Wanawa'a, Aliyuwan, Malak, Sho, Shemayim, Rataza, Wako, the Bayam, Kayum, Wagum, Yamashiach, Mayahawa, Adawanna, Ahabna, Hapala, Yawaitaza, Yahushai, the Karnawa, Yahawa, Batazawan, Aimka, Yasha'ala, Izonawa, Wana, Wasap, Yasha'ala, O, Nanawa, Yamyun, Aitha, Kaiwamya, Makutam, Babakushai, Shalat, Maika Allah, Ratazuwadak, Alahayam, La, Maganawa, Rapanawa, Washimor, Alnawa, Baikor, Shalat, Alwaka, Shal, Yahushai, Nawa, Alamunawa, Rabiam, Kakama, Tabawana, Wada Aif, Shal, Tabaka, Bahasham, Yahushai, the water, Tomyad, Waiwalam, Aman. English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, the great, merciful, mighty, terrible, most high power, King of heaven and earth, and all things living. And also the anointed from Yahweh, our Lord, our friend, the wonderful counselor Yahushua. Remember favorably your people Israel. Help us build and gather Israel. Most High, we beg you right now, like the days of old. Please send Michael and righteous powers to protect us, heal us, and watch over us. Mainly send the Spirit of Yahushua to us to teach us much wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of thy words. In the name of Yahushua, thank you always and forever. So be it. Repeat the Hebrew one. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushua that gives to us the Lord. Barakata Yahweh, Hashem Yahushua, Ashura, Athananawa, Athaora. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushua that gives to us the light to see. Barakata Yahweh, Hashem Yahushua, Ashura, Athananawa, Awar, Laora. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushua that gives to us the ransom to call the people. Barakata Yahweh, Hashem Yahushua, Ashura, Athananawa, Karan, Ayo, Lakara, A'ain. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushua that gives to us the olive oil to anoint Israel. Barakata Yahweh, Hashem Yahushua, Ashura, Athananawa, Hasheman, Zayah, Lamashak, Yasha'ala. Yeshabu, be seated. get this one right here. It's just Sabbath this one. It's in Hebrew. Yeah. All right, Shalom, Yasharala.
Shalom.
Shalom, those watching on the live stream. Shalom to all those listening on the conference line. Welcome to the Sabbath service, the day of the Lord, the seventh day. Today we're going to be reading in the book of 2 Samuel, chapter 15, and verse 16. All praises and honor to the Most High, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, his son, who the world called Jesus Christ. We had a week, which consists of 7 days. 6 days shall thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. And it, as we read in the Deuteronomy, the 20th chapter, we come to honor the Most High on his day. It is the Most High's day. Yes, you can worship the Most High in any day, but the day that the Most High sanctified and put aside for himself is the seventh day. So on the seventh day, we come and show respect to the Most High because he said so. So in that, the book that we're going to be reading once again is 2 Samuel chapter 15 and 16. My name is Kahan Pokwad. It is of great humility and honor to serve today in this Sabbath day. All right, so we're going to read about David, and most importantly in this chapter, about Absalom, who was the son of David. And we're going to see what took place in this chapter. All right, so get your Bible ready, pen, so you can take notes, as opposed to the classes that we have on Tuesdays and Friday at 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Today we're going to go to the chapter, and if you have any question, note it and bring it to class so we can bring clarification according to the scripture, with precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little, as it is prescribed in the Bible. That's how God's people, the Israelite, those scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, and those who are mainly in the land of North, meaning land of North America, where is spiritually called Sodom and Egypt, and also Babylon, right? Because things written aforetime was written for our learning. In the spirits that are here today, they were there back then. So therefore, the history that happened to us is repeating itself. So therefore, if we had Babylon back then, the same examples that happened in Babylon, we see it happening again in the land of North in this last days. All right. So that's so that everyone should be up to speed when we refer to America as being Egypt, which Egypt is a house of bondage. When you read in Exodus, that's what it signifies. Egypt is the house of bondage. Okay, so let's go into the chapter at hand. It's 2 chapters, 15 and 16. All right, and we're gonna begin. So in 2 Samuel chapter 15, God, if you don't mind, can you grab the phone for me on the table? All right, Tuada.
Mm-hmm.
Bear with me for a quick second while I look over for my notes. All right, so let's get going.
Please highlight this section versus comments. All right, the water.
All right. Now we're going to read about Absalom, who was determined to take control or to become king and replace David. So he wants to take David's place. So let's read. It says, and it came to pass after this that Absalom prepared him chariots and horses and 50 men to run before him. And Absalom rose up early and stood beside the way of the gate. And it was so that when any man that had a controversy came to the king for a judgment, then Absalom called unto him and said, of what city art thou? And he said, thy servant is one of the tribe of Israel. So now, what's taking place right now? Absalom desired to take David's place, but how he started to do it? He started what we call today public relation. Right? Public relation is when you try to appeal to your constituency or to appeal to the people that you will represent, the people you will defend. So being in that position that he wants to take David's place, now he has to build rapport with the people. So what he did, he pretty much geared up, and he went and stood in the city's gate where people coming in and out. So as he is stationed there, or he positioned himself there, he hears the people's complaint, and every time someone has a complaint or they have some situation between them, usually you would go to the king, who's supposed to give judgment, proper judgment, and restore whoever's at fault, right? Kind of like in a court system, right? To resolve the matter. So what Absalom did, he positioned himself and he started to have the people come and bring their petition to him and try to resolve the problem. So this was his tactic of public relation and try to build rapport with the people, because it desire to take the place. So people have to know you, and they have to know that you represent them and you've been a public servant prior to you become, ruler. So if they're gonna come in and put you, over them, they have to know that you have a history of, solving problem, of, make sure that everybody is in good standing as far as their situation when they have a problem, right? So that's pretty much his first way of dealing with that situation right there. So he stationed himself in the gate and start getting petition, complaints that people have, and trying to solve his problem, solve their problem, right? So that's pretty much what it's saying here in the first verse. All right, so let's move on. So let's move on in verse 3 now. So in verse 3, and Absalom said unto him, see, thy servants are good and right. But there is no man disputed of the king to hear thee. It says, see, I'm right here. I come, I come to you as opposed to you go to me. And if you go to the king, the present king, speaking of David, ain't nobody gonna do anything for you over there. It's gonna go in deaf ears. Nobody gonna pay attention to you. But because I see that, that's why I come to, solve the problem. I come to the people instead of the people come to me, right? In verse 4, Absalom said, moreover, or, oh, that I were made judge in the land, that every man which have any suits or cause might come unto me, and I would do him justice. So here you go right there. So anyone has a lawsuit, anyone has a situation that need to be resolved, then they can come to me and I would give them justice, right? Because that's pretty much what the people are looking for. They're looking for somebody who can serve them, right, and give them justice, which is what politicians usually they promise the people, right? They promise people jobs and also promise them that their matter will be heard whenever they have any dispute or any problem. Somebody would be a judge will be appointed. They would appoint judge who are not corrupt, right? That's pretty much the promise that they give to people, right? In this situation here, people knowing the law, and if a king is over them, right, he's supposed to make sure that everything is working accordingly, right, in all manner of law, right? So law-abiding citizens, right? The people are law-abiding citizens. They abide by the laws of the Most High. So therefore, someone must be there, right, to establish who's wrong and who's right in any matter. All right. So he said now he's set up to do that. So, and it was so that when any man came nigh to him to do him obeisance, he put forth his hand and took him and kissed him. So another tactic he utilized, when the people came, they bowed down to him, right? Bring their complaint to him instead of, you know, uh, agreeing to what they're doing. He pretty much grabbed them and then hugged them and kissed them. So meaning, I'm not here, for you to worship me or bow down to me. I'm here to do you a service, right? So he pretty much, put himself in the other people's shoes. Okay, but all that is happening because the Most High said it would happen. So what we're witnessing right now is a prophecy that the Most High, sent to David, right, via Nathan. And we see the process of that taking place right here, right? He prophesied to David, and now it's taking place. Now, what we're reading here is the manner of how it took place, right? The process. Okay, let's move on. All right, so, and on this manner did Absalom to all Israel that came to the king for judgment. So Absalom stole the heart of the men of Israel. So therefore, he was very convincing, right? Psychologically, he took the heart of the people, meaning he took their mind, right? He took their mind, meaning he won their mind. So they were able, right, to see him as someone who can provide justice to the people. Okay. And that's pretty much what it's all about. Politician is about winning the minds and heart of the people, right? To get them to sway them, right? To vote for them. And what they do, they lie, right? And they promise things, because if they don't promise anything, then nobody will vote for them. So therefore, they have to promise things, even if they know that they cannot deliver on it, right? So we see that happening right here with Absalom, right? Is that was his tactic, right? That was his tactic. He pretty much, did what he had to do because the Most High had it that he would be in that position, right, to exercise, that type of activity. So that's what he did. All right, so let's read on. So now in verse 7.
Well, before you do, just to prove what you said, just a verse you can read, just to show that when you see hearts, you just think it just means emotion, but it means emotions and thoughts as well.
Go ahead.
Because in the Hebrew, the concept is lab, which just means heart or mind. It's all in one. They're not like broken out like we usually have with the English. Just a verse you can get. Not the only verse, but one verse you can read to show that is Luke 24. Luke 24 and verse 38.
Luke 24 and verse 38. This going into heart being the mind. All right, as you read, because the heart, that the way we've been taught, you have to follow your heart. People out in the world believe that the heart that pumps blood, it's what the organ that pumps blood, it's what heart is. But the concept of the scriptures, heart means mind, because with your mind you think. But the one that pumps blood, the organ that we know as the heart in the world, is pretty much an artery that pumps blood and circulate blood throughout the body. But as far as thinking, the mind thinks, and that's what the Bible refers to as the heart when we read right here. And also you can read Luke 24:38 as a verse that you can read to see what was just brought out as far as the heart. Okay, so let's move on.
Oh, and you could also add Luke 5 and 22 to the same thing.
Additionally, Luke 5 and 22 to further edify the word heart. All right, so let's move on. Verse 7. And it came to pass after 40 years that Absalom said unto the king, I pray thee, let me go and pay my vow, which I have vowed unto the Lord and Abram. So keep in mind, this happened within a span of time. It's not something that happened today and tomorrow. I know we're reading a chapter and we might think, it happened instantaneously. It did not happen instantaneously. To the course of time, Absalom built himself as the people's person, right? As a people's person, he built his public relation, right? In the position where he was as a son of the king, right? He had position. So he stationed himself, right? And he was able to win the mind of the people to a span of time, right? So now he become known. So when the time comes for him to make move as to take over the kingdom, then he would be ready. He would not be someone that just come out of nowhere and show up and wants to represent the people. Okay. All right, so let's read on in verse 8 now. So after 7, verse 8. For thine, it says, for the years that Absalom said unto the king, I pray thee, let me go and pay my vow, which I have vowed unto the Lord in Hebron. For thy servant vow a vow while I abode at Gesher in Syria, saying, if the Lord shall bring me again indeed to Jerusalem, then I will serve the Lord. So he said, let me go, because I had pledged to the Most High that I have to make a service to the Most High. So he pledged a pledge, so he has to hold the pledge that he made to the Most High. So he requests that David let him go in fulfilling that mission. And David, being a man of the Most High, understood when you make a pledge, you have to honor it. So he's gonna, let's see what David said in regards to the request that Absalom made to him. Right? But Absalom had something else in mind. He was about to reinforce himself so that he can begin his takeover, of the kingship. In verse 9, and the king said unto him, go in peace. So he arose and went to Hebron. But Absalom sent spies throughout all the tribes of Israel, saying, as soon as ye hear the sound of the trumpet, then ye shall say, Absalom reigneth in Hebron. So this was the plan. So he went in Hebron, and he sent spies all throughout Israel, right, to spy. And he told them, whenever you hear the sound of the trumpet, then you shall know that Absalom reign or take over or control Hebron. So as we reading the scriptures today, people read the Bible as a religious book, but this is a book of law for the children of Israel, right? And it's about our our nation constitution. It is our nation constitution. He has ways of dealing in war. He have war. He has war in it, and how to strategy of war, right? He has everything to run a nation, right? Everything to run a nation is in the scriptures, is in the Bible, right? This is not a religious book that you go in one place on Sunday and then you raise your hand and you start shouting and do all kinds of stuff. This is what the people have taken the Bible to be, but that's not what it is. It's about a nation of people, right? Have their constitution, right? So, and it's about having strategy, military strategy, and also a spiritual book about how the children of Israel should honor the Most High by keeping His commandments. That's pretty much what the Bible is about, right? By keeping His commandments in regard to the Most High's kingdom for the children of Israel. Okay. All right. So let's read on. All right. So he sent spies and messengers, right, to Hebron. So let's read verse 10 now. I'm sorry, 11. And with Absalom went 200 men out of Jerusalem that were called, and they went in their simplicity, and they knew not anything, right? So the 200 people that went there with Absalom, this is Absalom who invited them, right? So he invited them to come in. So they did not really know anything about the plot that Absalom actually had against David. All right, so let's read on. Verse 13 now, verse 12. Let me read that, verse 12. It says, and Absalom sent forth a Ahithophel, the Gilonite, David counselor, from his city. even from Gilo, while he offered sacrifice, and the conspiracy was strong, for the people increased continuously with Absalom. So he had a game plan, right? He had his own strategy on how he was gonna take over, and that was one of his strategy. He invited new people that didn't know what was going on, and he had a big bang, right? While he was offering a sacrifice, right? And he also infiltrated David, inner circle, one of David counselor. He also was able to snatch him from David, right? So you have to attack. If you're gonna take over, right, you gotta go to the best man that this guy have, and take him and take control, and that's how you destabilize, any government, right? You gotta do it from inside out, not outside in, right? So that's pretty much Absalom's strategy, right? So, and keep that in mind. That's how it is in today's time. It is nothing new. It is strategy. If you're gonna take power is not something you play with, right? Power is good, and also power in the wrong hand, it can cause, some damages. Okay, so power is not something to play with. You have the ability, right, to control and to sway people, right, and to change people's circumstances and change the whole landscape and environment. Okay, and that's why you see people love power, and everybody, as a matter of fact, should want to desire power, even power over your own life, because not being able to have control over your own life is not a good thing, right? And that's pretty much what everybody's striving for. If you feel like you have no control over your life, you're in a situation of destitute. At least you should be able to provide for yourself, right? For your own life. And that's pretty much what power is about. It's about control your environment, control, things that you can control, right? And anything else you cannot control, you rely on the Most High. And that's why the Most High put everything here on earth, water, right? Food, right? So that people can, take care of themselves. And when they take care of themselves, like he told the children of Israel, don't think that you get these things because of you, but it's because of me, right? That I provide these things, and everything you get, always, thank the Most High, for providing these things, right? So, yeah, power is not reserved to a few, or everybody should at least have power, right, over their own life. Of course, with the help of the Most High. But power on a high level, as kingship, everything now belongs to the Most High. The Most High is the one that put kings, and he remove kings. And how he does it, through the strategy that we're reading right here, where you might think like it's something that's just happening, and this guy just making move, he wants to take over. Every step that he made, right, was already ordained by the Most High, but now we're following the process of that, what is taking place. Okay, so let's read on. All right, so conspiracy was strong, for the people increased continually with Absalom. So he went favor of the people, and he had increase in numbers, right? He increased in numbers. Verse 13, what we call today, he consolidate his base, right? His base on a high level, he established his base by getting key people from David's court, right, into to switch side and come to his side. Verse 13, and there came a messenger to David saying, the heart of the men of Israel are after Absalom, right? So you have spy on both sides. You have spy on David's sides. You have sides. You have spy on Absalom's side. So in a war of power, you have to be able to have informant. You have to be able to have people. That's why you have today what they call the FBI and the CIAs, the MI6, all these KGBs, right? Those are agencies that are put in place by these government to safeguard their rulership or their government. Okay, but me personally, I only respect one entity, one agency, which is called the GIA, which is the God Intelligence Agency, right? That's the agency that I believe in, and no other, alphabet. I know they dare to defend their government, but I stand with the GIA, all right, and run by the Holy Spirit, right? Like Yahushua said, He will send a comforter. He's the one over that, agency, all right, here on earth, as Yahushua is not here physically. Okay, so don't be fooled by those agencies that investigate after the fact. The Most High tell you what He's gonna do, and then He walk you through the process step by step, and then you see exactly what He said would happen. He doesn't speak, after the fact. He spoke before, and then you see things unfold. Right. So that's how the Most High work with us, with His intelligence. Okay. So now we see intelligence is always at play, and we have intelligence on David's side, and then intelligence on Absalom's side for the sake of take over power. Right? To take over power, it takes works. It's not something you just overnight you gain power, and that's why it's very difficult for some of us to even fathom that this country goes down, because we feel like they have spies and they control things. They have cameras, they have people, they have agents, they inform it all over the place. But the eyes of the Most High, according to the book in Ecclesiastes, is 10,000 times brighter than the sun. So no intelligence can hide from the Most High. All right, so keep that in mind. All right, let's read on. In verse, if you can get that verse for me, the eyes of the Most High is brighter than the sun. I believe it's in Ecclesiasticus. I don't remember exactly where it is.
Oh, it's in chapter 23.
Ecclesiasticus.
I think it's 18 and 19. Let me see. Yeah, it's it.
Ecclesiasticus
23, 18 and 19.
And the Apocrypha 23:18 and verse 19. Okay. This is about a takeover. This is a power. This is about rulership. It's about a nation. It's not about religion. All right. That's why we got to be on our game, in everything we do. And we got to this gospel, right? This is not a game out here. It's about, power struggle. It's about, takeover. All right. So let's read in verse 15 now. So now,
I have a link to.
What's the link you have?
This is Proverbs.
Proverbs
15 and 3.
Proverbs 15 and verse 3.
Where it says that it says how the eyes of the Lord are in every place, beholding the evil and the good.
Mm-hmm.
And the eyes of the Lord are pretty much referring to the angels. So if you talk about men on earth, they have governments, they have intelligence, they have spies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Watchmen. We get that from the Most High. He does that on the highest level, like you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And you just link that also with Psalms 33 and 18. For Psalms 33 and 18, it reads, "Behold, the eye of the Lord is upon them that fear Him, and upon them that hope in His mercy." And then one more to show that the eyes of the Lord are the angels. Psalms 34 and verse 7. To show they go hand in hand, because it says in Psalms 34 and 7, "The angel of the Lord, Yahweh, encamped round about them that fear him and delivereth them. So one place it says the eyes of the Lord, the other place it says the angel. So the angels are the Most High's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
What they see, he knows.
Cut.
Sorry. And another one more we can get. Because when we look at the visions of God, the different visions the prophet had, these things are important because that's what makes the visions come together. This is in Revelation. Revelation. I think it's chapter 5. I just thought about this now, but it's good to connect this. So we all have these verses. Revelation chapter 5. Yeah, here we go. Revelation chapter 5 and verse 6. So a vision that John, the Revelator, is having of the righteous government in the third heaven. It says, and one of the elders said unto me, weep not, behold, the lion, wrong verse, verse 6. And I beheld, and lo, in the midst of the throne, and of the four beasts, and in the midst of the elders stood a lamb, as it had been slain, having 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God sent forth into all the earth. So the 7 spirits talking about the 7 archangels. 4 of whom are named, but it refers to them in that vision as having eyes. So this lamb has 7 eyes, which represent those angels.
Good. So it's all about gathering information, knowing things, how the Most High operates in the earth, in heaven, and in earth. How he conducts his intelligent operation, right? So man is trying to be like the Most High. They establish agencies like the Most High to find out information, and information is important in anything that you're gonna do, right? Information is the know-how, right, on how to make something effective. If you're gonna take action, you don't want to take action without having the knowledge on what you're gonna take action on. The more knowledge you have, the more fluent and more effective, right, the outcomes is going to be. So we see Absalom here had his intels, right, his informant or spies, whatever you want to call it, right, to take over power. And you had also David had his own informant that would give information. Okay, so in public relation, in dealing with geopolitics, that's pretty much what it's about, right? If we think that government is just there and we just there living willy-nilly, everybody's conspired to have people on their side, right? People's minds are being convinced all the time, 24/7, right? To the media, right? From what you hear, it's just not something that they just come out and say. It's everything is planned. Nothing is happening by accident. That's why they call it programming, right? We're being programmed on every level, right? On the media, whether it's social media, mainstream media, right? However way you get information, this is all about the program. The Most High wants you to see the scriptures and follow his way, his commandments, right? And the other side wants you to follow their ways and their ways of doing things. Okay. So we gotta, choose the Most High side, the children of Israel. So that's pretty much what the battle is all about. All right. So let's read on in the situation with Absalom here, wanting to take over power from David. In verse 14, David said unto all his servants that were with him at Jerusalem, arise and let us flee, for we shall not us escape from Absalom. So now David weighed the matter, right, and make a judgment call. And he realized from the intels that he got, Absalom has built a stronghold, meaning his base is solid. So at that point, the decision is you got to leave, right? You have to, analyze the situation and see where you're strong and see where you're weak. Don't try to hold on to power when you know that you don't stand a chance, or you might put people at risk, right? Just to try to hold on to power. When your power is out, is out. But if you see the possibility, based on intels, that you have a stronghold by analyzing the other side, strength and weaknesses, then you might say, okay, based on their strength, based on their weaknesses, my strategy will be this, and I see the possibility of still staying in power because of my advantage points, right? You have to analyze things from every advantage point. Usually we analyze things based on our advantage point as opposed to all advantage points. We only see our side where we can win, but we don't see how the enemy is strong where they can also defeat you, right? So that's how we should analyze things, not just see I'm gonna win because I'm strong, but don't analyze the other party and see their strengths and weaknesses, and weigh it in the balance and see how you're gonna win. And knowing David is pretty much a man after the Most High's heart. He understood, he understood, and he was the greatest king in Israel. He understood, power and how to maneuver and how to take over, right? So he's no slouch. So that's how he knew, you know what? Based on the intels I have, based on the information, I've been infiltrated. You know what? He built a stronghold. At this point right now, and not only that, he's my son, and I don't want to see anybody go down in bloodshed because of me, right? You know what? I might as well just leave. Sometimes you take the low route just because your people, gonna be in the battle to begin with, right? So it's not about holding power for yourself, but as a children of as a king of the Most High puts you in power, right, to establish things all right, but not to engage in bloodshed when it's not necessary. Okay, so David pretty much made the right decision, but David knew also he had the inclination of what was happening, but he could not stop it because the Most High said so. But in the midst of the moment of what's happening, you may not have the full story. Don't think that David had the full story and comprehend everything that was taking place step by step, right? You're not gonna know. You just can have an inclination, and if your mind is not in the right place, you are the man of the Most High, then the Most High will direct your step. All right.
Con, this is an excellent example of where we talk about small matters versus great matters.
Mm-hmm.
Where small matters, it's usually something that's clear, it's easy to discern, right from wrong. Whereas with greater matters that might be a little more risky, there won't be more elements involved. It's about choosing the best answer.
Good.
So, like you said, they weighed out all the options as far as his well-being and the people's well-being, and he went for the best answer in the situation. And at that point, all you're pretty much relying on is what's probability what's going to be most powerful for you in the long term to work out in your favor. But there's always odds.
Right.
The whole idea is to go with the odds that are best in your favor, and then rely on the Most High's favor, right, to see it through.
Good. All right, so let's move on. And let's move on. And David said unto all his servants that were with him at Jerusalem, arise and let us flee, for we shall not us escape from Absalom. Make speed to depart, lest he overtake us suddenly and bring evil upon us and smite the city with the edge of the sword. Verse 15. And the king's servant said unto the king, behold, thy servants are ready to do whatsoever my lord the king shall appoint it. All right, so the servants, they were ready, right, to honor David's decision whatever he wants to do. Verse 16, and the king went forth, and all his house after him, and the king left 10 women, which were concubines, to keep the house. So he left 10 concubines to keep the palace, right? To keep the palace together, to dress it, keep it in order, right? But he said to flee and go into exile, right? Verse 18, 17. And the king went forth, and all the people after him, and tarried in a place that was far off. And all his servants passed on beside him, and all the Sheratites, and all the Pelatites, and all the Gittites, 600 men which came after him from Gath, passed on before the king. So they pretty much there on his left and his right, right, to protect them, right, because they still renown him as the king, right? Still, he hasn't 100% lose power, right? It's also when you have the reputation of being a king, even when you're not king, even you're not king anymore, your reputation stays, right? When you have president, even when they're not in power, they still regard them as president. Okay, so he has his bodyguard and he has his armies with him and to protect them, right? Verse 19. Then said the king to Tithites, Gethites, wherefore goest thou also with us? Return to thy place and abide with the king, for thou art a stranger and also in exile. Right? So he also compelled some of those people who reside in the place where he currently is now, right, to come with the king and to him, right? Because they also they exile, right? Whereas thou cometh but yesterday, should I this day make thee go up and down with us, seeing I go whither I may return thou and take back thy brethren, mercy and truth be with thee. So he didn't want all those guys to go with him because he's on the run. He's on the run, and also you don't want to jeopardize some of those people as well who just came over there with him and wanted to protect him, right? He didn't want to jeopardize just one security, going all over the place. Now it becomes not so much about the people; it becomes about him trying to spare his own life and also put this some people in jeopardy. Those who were ready to go with him, right? He used to them; they were there already, so he did not have any problem with them coming. But for those new people who are also ready, right? He said, "I don't even know where I'm going. I'm just I'm moving, but I don't even know where I'm going. So you could stay back." Right? It says, "Return thou and take back thy brethren, mercy and truth be with thee." Verse 21. And Hittite answered the king and said, "As the Lord liveth, and as my lord the king liveth, surely in what place my lord the king shall be, whether in death or life, even there also will thy servant be." So now you see somebody who's very loyal, right? They was very loyal to David. He said, "You know what? Whether in death, whether in life, I will be with you. Wherever you may be, that's where I'm gonna be." So that's somebody who declare his loyalty, right? And someone like that, you should consider him as somebody that you would want on your side. So let's see what David said. And David said to Ittai, "Go and pass over." And Ittai the Gethite passed over, and all his men and all the little ones that were with him. So David agreed based on his conviction. He saw that the man was a man of conviction, so he accepted him his request, right, to accompany him in his journey while he's on the run. Verse 23. And all the country wept with a loud voice, and all the people passed over. The king also himself passed over the brooks Kendron, and all the people passed over towards the way of the wilderness, and to Zadok also, and all the Levites were with him. And keep in mind, they always travel with the Ark of the Covenant, and that's why you see the Levite there. And Zadok was a priest amongst the Levites, right, that carry the Ark of the Covenant. It says Levites were with him, bearing the Ark of the Covenant of God, and they set down the Ark of God in Abiathar, went up until all the people had done passing out of the city. So they placed they placed they put down the Ark of the Covenant, and then until all the people passed through, right? So that all the people passed through, right? Until all the people passed through. And verse 25. And the king said unto Zadok, carry back the Ark of God into the city. If I shall find favor in the eyes of the Lord, he will bring me again and shew me both it in his habitation. So now he told Zadok and Abiathar to take the Ark of the Covenant back to Jerusalem, and if the Most High see it fit that he gave him grace, right, and he spare him, then he will return to Jerusalem and see them as well as the Ark of the Covenant. Right? And verse 20.
Oh, just want to say, it's ironic. You look at these at Abiathar. That's the one that David rescued, and he himself was on a run from Saul. He ran back in 1 Samuel after Saul made that command to kill all the priests that were at that city Nob.
Right.
He was the son of, I think it was Ahimelech, I think was the high priest in his stead, his father.
Right.
He was one of the ones that Saul had killed. He was king.
Right. So those people, they pretty much have longevity. They had reputation. Their resume has already been built. So it's always good to have people that you know in your circle. And that's pretty much what was there right there. Their resume has already been built with David. So that's why you see these people being repeated. That's why sometimes even in politics, you see it's a people, the same people you see there, they've been there for a minute. They may go to a different administration, to another administration, but those people, they always in power because they build their reputation, right, in the government where they serve.
And I'll mention this too, if I may. Ittai, the Gittites are those from Gad. So you go into Gad, that was a Philistine town. That's why I mentioned him being a stranger and an exile, right? To where when you look at going back to 2 Samuel 8, he mentions that Benaiah, who's going to come into play in the future when King Solomon comes on the scene, to speak to your point about how a lot of names that come up under later kings oftentimes had a place with the king before. In one position or another, depending on how they carried themselves. But it says that Benaiah, he had command over the Cherethites. I'll read it real quick, going back. When we read 2 Samuel 8, it says in verse 17 and 18, it says, and Zadok the son of Ahitub and Ahimelech the son of Abiathar were the priests, and Sariah was the scribe. This is in 18, and Benaiah the son of Joiada was over both the Cherethites and the Pelethites, and David's sons were chief rulers. So we had other nations in some cases that were part of David's command, his mighty men, so to speak. So yeah, we were Israel first, of course. But yeah, we had other nations that were there too. They showed forth valiantness, they showed forth commitment, loyalty. So your enemy can sometimes be your friend, can sometimes be your ally.
Right. And
we saw that with David going to flee from Saul, where he went to other nations at times to see if he can get some kind of favor from them, if the Most High would allow it. We see the same thing happening here too. Once again, it's not like David in his mind is thinking, oh yeah, these people are going to be saved like we do now, where, you know, a heathen does something nice for you. You just think, oh yeah, give them, you know, the same portion as me. It's just known that, okay, these are loyal to my cause for the Most High. Let me do right by them because they've done right by me. If that were to change, then I have to change, you know, as far as my relationship.
And also, you can see that David usually leave things into the Most High's hand. Regardless of anything, he always used the Most High as a crutch to fall back on, in whatever situation he's in. And that's one of the things that's unique about David. He knows how to bow down when he knows the chips is not in his favor. Let's go to Jeremiah 25 and verse 30. And what was the scripture you just read again?
2 Samuel 8, 17 and 18.
2 Samuel 8, 23 and 18.
17 and 18.
17 and 18. So now let's go to Jeremiah chapter 25. And verse 30. Jeremiah 25 and verse 30 reads, therefore prophesy thou again against them all these words, and say unto them, the Lord shall roar from on high, and utter his voice from his holy habitation. He shall mightily roar upon his habitation. He shall give a shout as they that thread the grapes against all the inhabitants of the earth. So, referring back to what David said in 2 Samuel 15 in verse 25, right? When he says, I'll lose my page. Right, 2 Samuel 15 in verse 25, actually 26. But if he does saith, I have no delight in thee, behold, here I am. Let him do to me as seemeth good unto him. So he knows the Most High does whatever he wants to do, when he wants to do it, however way he wants to do it, right? So he knew there's nothing he can do about that. So that's why he told Zadok to take the Ark of the Covenant back. Then if it's the Most High's will, he'll see it again. And if not, if the Most High decides to do otherwise, that's what it's going to be. So he cannot fight against that, right? So move on in verse 27. It says the king. That was in Jeremiah 25 and 30. And verse 27 says, back now to 2 Samuel 15 and 27. The king said also unto Zadok the priest, are not thou a seer? Return into the city in peace, and your your two sons with you, in him in Hamazat.
27.
Yeah.
Amahaz,
thy son, and Jonathan, the son of Abiathar. See, I will tarry in the plain of the wilderness until there come word from you to certify me. So he sent them back. He wanted to send them back. At the same time, he sent them on a mission. He gave them new assignments. He gave him new assignment. And he told him to go back to him and Abiathar, his son, and Abiatar's son, right? To go back, right, to Jerusalem. So he said he's going to wait there in the plain
until he hear from them, right? And until he hear news from them that everything is okay, right? Over there in Jerusalem with them when they get there in Jerusalem. So he pretty much sent them as, I would say, informant. They're gonna do an informant job as well, because now he established that those are his right hand men, right? And he's gonna send back. At least he gotta keep his ears in what's going on in Jerusalem, and in order for him to do that, he has to have trusted men on the ground, right, to pretty much give him rapport, even then when he's not there physically. Right? He wants to make sure that he has people there. So that happens in any country and any government. That's why you have people get imprisoned once they find out you're a spy, even if you're a citizen of that country, right? Like you have a Snowden, you have those other guys, right, who go into, even though they're citizen of the U.S., but they don't always agree with everything that they see in government, right? Some of the stuff that they're in disagreement with, but if they speak out loud, right, they would kill them. So sometimes they have to go somewhere else, right, in another place where they can find asylum, political asylum, right, so that they can air whatever they hear, in the government that can be, detrimental to the population. Okay, so David in hand want to make sure that he has people insiders inside, Absalom's government, so he can know what's going on. Because at the end of the day, it's about ruling the people, right? It's not about yourself. So if you can still stay in to find out information how to, keep taking care of the people, even though you're not in power, that's what it's about. So the power is not about you. It's about the Most High put you in place to be an overseer, right, over His people. All right. It's a job that never ends. Even if you're in rulership or whatnot. So that's why those of us who are out there teaching, we got to keep our ears in everything that's going on and be informed, not because of ourselves, but because we out there teaching the people. So we got to know what's going on. Right? You got to stay informed. All right. So let's move on. Verse 29 now. Zadok, therefore, and Abiathar carried the ark of God again to Jerusalem, and they tarried there. And David went up by the ascent of Mount Olivet, right, to the top of the mountain, right, and wept as he went up, and had his head covered, and he went barefoot, and all the people that was with him covered every man his head, because that place right here, they used to do service to the Mosai in that place. So that's where David went, and David was in distress because of what's happening, right? So you can imagine the stress of he was under, was with covered head, every man his head is his head, and they went up weeping as they went up, and one told David, saying, Ahithophel is among the conspirators with Absalom. So news came to David that one of his top counselor was with Absalom. So he betrayed, David, right, for Absalom. Because you have those kind of people, they always in power because they have no loyalty, right? And their loyalty is with power. Whoever's in power, that's where they at. Regardless of who's in power, right? They always find a way to maneuver so they can keep their position of counsel, right? Like for example, you have Zbigniew Brzezinski, You have guys like Harry Kissinger. Those guys, they've been every government, right? They did. Right? I'm just giving you an example. They did. You know, president go, president came, right? They still there as counselors because those people, they pretty much about power. Wherever power is, that's where they at. So they'll give you counsel for they'll counsel for their own sake, right? So for the sake of keeping their position. So that's pretty much what's taking place right now, right? With Ahithophel, who was a king's counselor, right? So and usually they counsel you in a way where you keep power for a certain time, and when you're gonna fall, they look to see who's gonna be the replacement, and they quickly pull back and then side with the other side, right? As if they never, it's not your fault, it's your decision. You made that decision, right? They can counsel you, but at the end of the day, the king is gonna be the one that makes the decision. So they keep themselves out of the limelight, right? As if they have nothing to do with whatever's taking place or turmoil inside the government. All right.
Oh, I just want to mention this too for verse 30.
Mm-hmm.
The significance of that Olivet. When we talk about the prophecies that Christ gave the disciples and asked about the last days, that was in that same place. It was
Right.
some distance from Jerusalem, and they call the Mount of Olives or Olivet. Sometimes the scholars call it the Olivet Discourse. When he tells them about nations rising against nations, false Christs, famines, pestilences, etc. But you can just link Acts chapter 1 and verse 12 with 2 Samuel 15 and 30 real quick. So persons and places, are often significant in the scriptures, as well as things, but in this case, a place. This is Acts chapter 1 and verse 12. It says, this is after the disciples saw Christ go up into the chariot, after he abided with them 40 days and nights. It says, then returned they into Jerusalem from the mount called Olivet, same place that David's at now, which is from Jerusalem a Sabbath day's journey.
Right. So usually they would go to those places. They have high regard to those places. Kind of like when Musa told when Moses came in and he told him, take off your sandals because the ground that you are is holy ground. Right. So Joshua. Yeah, take off your shoes or whatever. Because where you stand right here is holy ground. So you see the same scenario where David went up there, barefooted, right, to go up there and weeping and in agony. So in verse 32 now, after David got information that Ahithophel is among the conspirators with Absalom, and David said, "Oh Lord, I pray thee, turn the counsel of Ahithophel into foolishness." So quickly, David prayed to the Most High that his counsel, Ahithophel counsel, would turn into foolishness. So whatever he would do, it would be foolishness. And indeed, as we read on, we're gonna find out whatever David asked is gonna be some foolish advice that he's gonna give Absalom. Again, prophecy had to happen. That same bad advice that he gave Absalom, right? That advice is gonna be playing out bad for David. So when you at odd with the Most High, even your prayer will be a detriment to yourself in the correction, because the Most High is not gonna spare, and you're gonna find yourself praying, and you praying, and your prophecy will come true in the same prayer that you're praying the Most High. All right, so we're gonna read that, and you're gonna see how all this is gonna come together, right, based on the request that David made to the Most High. All right, so let's read on. In verse 32. And it came to pass that when David was come to the top of the mount where he worshipped the Most High, behold, Hushai the Hashittite came to meet him with his coat rent and earth upon his head, unto whom David said, if thou passest on with me, then thou shalt be a burden unto me. But if thou return to the city and say unto Absalom, I will be thy servant, a king, O king, as I have been thy father's servant hereunto, so will I now also be thy servant. Then mayest thou for me defeat the counsel of Ahithophel. So now David, still in his intelligent, operation, he saw that this man right here that came to him, also he was a friend of David in that city. He went to the mountain and trying to mourn with David, knowing what David is into, right? So now David understood that he need even more people in Absalom's court to defeat Ahithophel, right? Council. So now he's gonna send this gentleman right there, right, to Jerusalem to be part of Absalom's government for the sake of intel and information gathering and how he can, to defeat Ahithophel, right? His council. So he's still gathering, intelligence even in his dire situation. In verse 35, and hast thou not there with thee Zadok and Abiathar the priests? Therefore it shall be that what thing soever thou shalt hear out of the king's house, thou shalt tell it to Zadok and Abiathar the priest. So now you're gonna be in the inner circle. So whatever you hear in the palace, you're gonna tell it to the priest and Zadok, because Zadok and Abiathar, right? They are right hand man to David. So now he, right? They both priests, right? When they are high, right? They both priests in in Levite. So now, because they were both of them, they were the one in charge of carrying the Ark of the Covenant at the time, right? So Abiathar, you're gonna tell it to Zadok and Abiathar, and then that word can come to me. So now he has a circle of confidants in the inner circle of Absalom government, so that he can keep track of what's happening, right? If there's any danger, anything that he can do, right, to mitigate the situation, right, so he can, right, because he still care about his people, and whatever the situation is, that he can intervene and quell any any bloodshed that is not necessary, that is not necessary. He would definitely intervene and take action. So that's why he's prepping this guy right here. So it says 36, behold, they have there with them their two sons. So he's giving them information about who also they have there with them, right? Two sons. And Amahaz, Zadok son, and Jonathan, Abiathar son, and by them ye shall send unto me, everything that you can hear. So whatever information, any little information you can hear, you're gonna use those guys specifically, right, to relate the information, right, so they can come and let me know, right? Verse 37. So Hushai, David's friend, came into the city, and Absalom came into Jerusalem. So that's what's involved in power. Power, you have to be inside. So it's not a clear cut. You get into power and things, you run your government and then things is going on smooth. It's always, you got to be on your P's and Q's. You got to know who's in your inner circle. Even that, you still gonna have people that's with you in the inner circle you don't even know, because you cannot read everybody's mind. You don't know where they stand, right? They can be with you today, and tomorrow you'll be surprised that they're on the other side because they found a better deal, or they are more loyal to the other people than they are with you, right? That's why our confidence should be in the Most High, so that whatever move we make, if it's the Most High's will, right, everything will fall into place. So that's pretty much what's taking place right now.
Kind of, you were speaking to that earlier, kind of about people, where we find power that they are. Like you said, the guys like Brzezinski and Kissinger, where it don't matter if it's the red team or blue team is in charge, right? They're always there somehow, finagling something. Because and we see it here too. Was it Hushai? David's friend. Come back to me. I lost it. If it comes back to me, I'll say what I was going to say.
Go on. So that's the game of power. The game of power, that's how it's being played, and there's no way around it. All right. So we 12 now, 12:06. Let's take a brief recess, and then we'll talk on verse chapter 16 and move forward. As we can see, we swiftly went into this one. In chapter 16 shouldn't be that long. So let's take a brief recess, and then we reconvene in the next 15 minutes. Okay. 15 minutes, we'll be back.